Great. So thank you for joining. Welcome. This is Applying to Kindergarten, a webinar hosted by Advocates for Children of New York. My name is Betty Baez-Mello. I'm the director of our Early Childhood Education Project here at AFC. I'm joined by my colleague who will be assisting with the Q&A, helping to answer some of your questions. Do you want to present yourself, Liliana?
Yes, good morning. My name is Liliana Diaz-Pedrosa. I am the director of the Advocacy for Children Parents Center, and I will be staffing the Q&A. So any questions you have, please feel free to put them in the Q&A, and we'll address them as we go through the presentation. Thank you, Betty.
Thank you. As I said to people who joined earlier, we will be emailing you all a copy of these slides, which include all of the presentation, all the links to the embedded materials. We will also send you a recording of this webinar and resources that are on our website. And with that, we will get started. So today we're talking about applying to kindergarten, but I just want to point out that the transition from preschool to kindergarten involves two processes for the families of children with disabilities. While all children born in 2019 have a right to a public school classroom kindergarten seat in September of 2024, there are two processes for families of children with disabilities to determine where their child will attend school and what special education programs and services the child will receive. One process is a kindergarten IEP process. This is how, for families of children with preschool students with disabilities, they're going to have an additional IEP meeting this year on top of their annual preschool IEP meeting to determine the special education programs and services that their child should receive in kindergarten. So the IEP meeting generally happens this year between February and May so that the child can enter kindergarten prepared to succeed in September. That's one process. The other process, and the kindergarten IEP process, we will not cover today. We have a separate webinar on that process, and we encourage you to apply to that or register for that webinar if you're a parent of a child with a disability. The second process is a process for all families. It's the kindergarten admissions process. And this is a process for applying to DOE non-specialized schools. We encourage that all families participate in the application process because it's the one opportunity you really have to express your preference in which of the DOE non-specialized schools your child will attend. The process is now open. This is what we will be talking about today, everything you need to know about applying. We'll point out that when we say all families should apply, that means families of children with disabilities, families of children who are learning English, so dual language learners, immigrant families across the board really should apply through the kindergarten admissions process now during the winter. So let's make sure, if we haven't already, let's make sure everyone is in the right place. This is the process for applying to kindergarten for children born in 2019. Admissions to kindergarten is based on the year you were born and not much else. So it's for New York City families of children born in 2019. You have the next couple of months to apply to DOE non-specialized schools. So we're going to start with some quick introductions so you can know a little bit more about AFC. We'll talk about resources available to research schools, so to help you decide which schools you may be interested in applying to. You can apply to up to 12 schools. Sorry, I'm just having a little technical issue. Hopefully you can all hear me and see me. I've lost my screen. Okay. Okay, so sorry for that interruption, everyone. As I was saying today, these are the topics we're going to cover. We're going to do a quick introduction of Advocates for Children, so you're familiar with who we are and the services we provide. We will go over researching schools, different resources that exist, so that to help you decide which schools you may be interested in applying for kindergarten for your child. Help you understand the admissions priorities so you know your likelihood of getting an offer to the schools that you've applied to. Generally, the application, where to apply, how to apply, the deadline to apply, different tips to help you read down the schools and understand what comes next. So registration and that process. We'll briefly go over charter schools. It is a separate application process than the one we're going to talk about today. Additional rights for students with disabilities, and we'll end with resources and contacts. Right, so what is Advocates for Children? AFC was founded in 1971 by a group of parents who were advocating for the rights of their children with disabilities. Since then, it's really expanded. We've celebrated over 50 years and have expanded to an agency whose primary goal is to protect the rights of all New York City students. And we do this through several different ways. We have a helpline that all families, professionals, anyone can call if they have a question about an individual child's educational services. Our helpline is open Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The number is 1-866-427-6033. We can also offer legal services to low-income families. Our capacity is limited. If you think you need legal assistance, recommend that you contact our helpline because they're able to screen and see if a caller qualifies for legal representation or if they need that additional assistance. We offer guides and resources. They are available on our website, linked to right here. We also offer workshops and trainings like this one. We have webinars. We also do workshops in person. If you're a professional and would like to request one for a group of families or group of individuals, you can contact us through our website for that. And in order to really impact larger scale change and not just on the individual client basis, we do policy advocacy and impact litigation. And so those are trying to get change citywide and statewide on behalf of all students. Right, so just checking in, we haven't really covered much, but checking in if there's anything in the Q&A that maybe Liliana hasn't addressed yet.
Nothing yet.
Great, so let's keep moving. We're going to have another little poll just to assess your knowledge already. So during the DOE's kindergarten admissions process, you can apply to A, DOE non-specialized schools, B, charter schools, C, private schools, or D, all of the above. I feel like we need to have Jeopardy music or something playing during the polls. Okay, most of you have answered, and most of you have answered correctly. The correct answer is A, DOE non-specialized schools. This is the application, the Department of Education admissions process. It's just for applying to the DOE non-specialized schools, sometimes called zone schools, neighborhood schools, community schools. There is a separate process for applying to charter schools. We'll briefly cover that today, as well as a separate process. Each private school has its own process as well. So we will be focused today on these DOE non-specialized schools. And so as a quick overview of the process for applying to DOE non-specialized schools, we recommend that you use this time now to research schools, get to know more information about them. You'll have through January 19th to apply. So you can apply this winter. You will receive an offer in the spring. Everyone who applies on time will receive an offer on the same day. You should accept that offer. Accepting that offer reserves a spot for your child for September. It does not remove your child from the waitlist. You may still hear from programs. If you ranked them higher on your application, you may continue to hear from programs that you ranked higher as seats become available. So that can happen throughout the summer. This is a quick overview, and now we're going to talk about each of these individual steps in the upcoming slides. So researching schools. First, we recommend that you find your zone school. We're going to talk about admissions priorities in a moment, but as you'll see, most children attend their zone school. Your child has the highest likelihood of receiving an offer to their zone school. You can find your zone school on the DOE website, schoolsearch.schools.nyc, on MySchools.nyc, which also works as a school directory, or by calling 311. For all of these, you just enter your address and it'll let you know which is your zone school. And it'll also tell you which is your school district, which can also be useful information. Once you have that info, you can research school options. You can visit schools. There's a calendar of open houses on the MySchools.nyc directory. So recommend that you check it out, see if there's an open house or an ability to tour one of the schools in your area that you're interested in. If not, if it's not listed there, contact the school directly. The telephone number will be listed on the My Schools directory to see if they can schedule a time for you to come in. The directory on My Schools gives you a lot of information about the individual school, including what type of programs it offers. If it offers, for example, gifted and talented or dual language programs, its hours of operation, obviously the address and other contact information. And Inside Schools is a great resource in that families can leave comments and rate schools, so you can get information from the parents of other students who have attended. Then we recommend that you understand admissions priorities, so you understand how likely it is that you will receive an offer to a school that you list in your choices, right? The priorities, you can get more information today during our webinar. It's also laid out on the DOE kindergarten website, schools.nyc.gov/kindergarten, and some information on admissions offers and priorities is available in the NYC Public Schools Admissions Guide. The admissions guide is across all grades, so it's not very detailed, but it is still a useful resource. And this is a copy of that admissions guide, just to give you a little bit more, make it a little bit more apparent to you. The admissions guide is available on the DOE website, schools.nyc.gov/kindergarten. It's available in 10 languages. While it covers all grades, so it doesn't have school-specific information, it does go over how to create an account on MySchools.nyc, which is the online directory, and also one of the tools that you can use to apply to kindergarten. It goes over this general checklist. Unfortunately, because these are published so early on in the process, it doesn't have the application dates. We will talk about the application dates today. So you can, for example, fill in this checklist and think about next steps that you want to keep track of. It helps you understand the admissions offer, as I said, and just the general process, but it doesn't have school-specific information. What does have school-specific information is MySchools.nyc. So there's an example of the sign-in page for My Schools. You can create an account at any time. So if you didn't have one already, you can create one now. And you can use a lot of the functions on My Schools, like viewing the directories, without even having an account. If you want to apply, you should create an account. It's completely free. You do need an email address. One convenient thing about My Schools is that you can translate it into 10 languages. So there is an option on the top right-hand corner of the My Schools page that lets you convert the website to Spanish, Chinese, Bengali, Arabic, so that families who need a language other than English hopefully can have access to that. When you're in My Schools, you can enter your address. And by entering your address, it will, one, tell you your zone school, but also identify other schools in your area. You can also filter. You can see that there are these little boxes. Means you can filter for different types of schools. So if you want to filter specifically for magnet schools, if you want to look specifically for gifted and talented programs, if you want to look for dual language programs, My Schools lets you filter to look for schools that meet that category, or also to filter by is it by this transit line? Is it by, you can put in your work address if you want to consider schools in that area. So it really lets you play around with it in quite a different ways. Once you identify a school, once you have this list generated and you identify a school that looks interesting, if you click on that school, it'll provide you with more detailed information. So as you can see here, we have more detailed information on Chelsea Prep, including all of the contact information for the school, different information about accessibility for children who need a wheelchair accessible school or otherwise barrier-free school, and information on the different programs that it offers. Through My Schools, you can apply to schools directly, by the way. All right, so another poll. Children are, so during the kindergarten admissions process, you can apply to up to 12 schools in the same form. And then offers are made based on your preferences. So children are most likely to receive a kindergarten offer to A, the school that they attended for pre-K, B, the school that their siblings attend, C, their zone school, or D, their top choice school. Okay, it looks like most of you have answered and most of you have answered correctly. We will review now the kindergarten admissions priorities, but yes, the correct answer is C, their zone school. While there are some preferences for siblings and for current pre-K students, the main factor that determines where a child will attend school or where they're likely to receive an offer is if is their zone school. So it's the area where they live. And so we'll go over these priorities now to give you a better understanding. And so different schools have different admissions priorities. We're going to start specifically now with admissions priorities for zoned schools. Most DOE non-specialized schools are zoned schools. So they prioritize serving students in a certain geographic area. And offers are made to those zoned schools through these admissions priorities, right? So if a school doesn't have enough seats to accept all the students that applied, they're going to have to determine which students get priorities for admissions. The first two groups of students are children who live in the school zone. Group number one is specifically for children who live in the zone and have a sibling who will be attending the school next year. So it doesn't, if the sibling is graduating this year, if they're in 5th grade and then they're going to another middle school next year, that child doesn't have sibling priority because their sibling will not be in the school next year. Sibling, by the way, is defined as half sibling, step sibling, foster sibling of the applicant. It's another child or sibling who lives in the same household. So it's a fairly broad definition. And again, to get that sibling priority, the sibling will have to be attending the school next year as well. Getting back. So number one, the child lives in the school zone and will have a sibling in the school zone next year or attending the school next year. Category 2 is for other children who live in the school zone. If there are still seats, the school can make offers to children in categories 3 and or 4, which are siblings will be attending the school. So group number 3 are children who live in the district, but not the zone, who will have a sibling attending the school next year. Group number 4 is for children who live out of the district and will have a sibling attending the school next year. So these may be, especially the out of district, maybe the family used to live in the school zone, has moved away, the sibling can still get some priority to attend the school. If there are still seats left in the school, then offers can be made to categories 5 and 6. These are children who currently attend the school's pre-K program. Group number 5 are children who currently attend the pre-K program and live in the district. Group number 6 are children who attend the pre-K program and live outside of the school district. If there are still seats, offers can be made to priority group number 7, who are other students who live within the school district. Category 8 is other students who live outside of the school district. Within these priority groups, there's also priority for children who need an accessible school. If we can click next. Okay, so students who need an accessible school will receive an offer before other children in their priority group. So that doesn't mean that children who need an accessible school are bumped up to number 1. It's that, for example, if there's a student who currently attends the school's pre-K program and lives within the school district, so they're in priority group number 5, that child who needs an accessible school will get an offer before the other children in category 5. It doesn't mean that they will get an offer before groups 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so I know that's a lot. That's a lot to go over. And so now we're going to do an exercise to see if it all sinks in a little bit more. So we have a school, PS 123. It's a zone school. PS 123 has 20 kindergarten seats, and the following children applied: 5 children who live in the zone, 10 children who live in the district and will have a sibling attending the school next year, 9 other students who live in the district, so they don't have a sibling, not a pre-K student, they just live in the school district, and 1 non-district student who attends pre-K at PS 123. So we're going to go through an exercise now to see if we can go next. Who are the first group of students who will receive an offer to PS 123? Is it the zone students, the students who live in the district, the students currently attending pre-K at PS 123, or is it the students who apply first? First come, first serve. We're all fairly quick to answer. I'm gonna give a moment to see if anybody else wants to fill it in. Okay, well, most of you have responded to the poll and most of you have responded correctly. The correct answer is zone students. I know this may sound repetitive, but zone students are the first group of students to receive an offer to a non-specialized school. We'll finish the exercise to go through how offers are made, but I want to just emphasize that all families who apply by the application deadline are treated the same. So all families who apply by, January 19th, January 14th, we'll double check that in a moment, who apply by the January deadline will receive a kindergarten offer on the same day. There's no first come, first serve with respect to admissions priorities. Okay, so here's the exercise. PS 123 has 20 kindergarten seats. The first category of students and more than 20 students apply, right? So we need to go through the list of priorities. The students with the first priority are the zone students. There are enough seats to make offers to all 5 of the zone students. The next group of priorities based on the students who apply are the 10 in-district students who will have a sibling attending the school next year. There are still enough seats, so all 10 of those students can receive offers. The next group of priorities, and this one purposely put it out of order, is the child who attends pre-K at the school, but lives outside of the school district. There are enough seats that all children in that category, that one child can receive an offer. Then we're left, there's still some seats, but not enough to make an offer for all 9 of the other in-district students. So what happens with this category, if one of those children needs an accessible school, that'll be the first child to get an offer from this group of 9. Otherwise, these 9 children get a lottery. So it's random drawing to see which of those 9 will get an offer. So here, 4 were able to get an offer. The other 5 will remain on the school's wait list. And if the seat becomes available, if this was their, if they ranked this school number 1 and didn't get offers to and weren't able to get an offer, they will remain on the wait list for this school and can receive a notification if the seat becomes available. Okay. Some exceptions. So not all schools are zone schools. Not all districts have zone schools. And so these are some of the exceptions to those admissions priorities. There are some non-zone school districts, including District 1 in Lower East Side Manhattan, District 7 in the South Bronx, and District 23 in Brownsville, Brooklyn. I'll point out that District 1 in Lower East Side, it does have admissions priorities to increase diversity in admissions. So specifically for children who are low income, to increase racial diversity, they may receive some priority in schools within that area. You can learn more on the District 1 website that gives you more information on those. And then District 7 in the South Bronx, I just want to point out it's broken up into a northern and southern region, and children receive admissions priorities to schools within those regions of the district. Otherwise, for non-zone schools, the admissions priorities are similar to what we just covered, except obviously there are no zone students. And it generally follows this order of priority, being that siblings will receive top priority. First and foremost, if a child lives within the district and will have a sibling attending the school. And then secondly, for children who live even outside of the district and will have a sibling attending the school. Similar for pre-K students, there's priority for children who attend the school pre-K program, first if they live in the district, and then also for pre-K students who live outside of the school district. Then for all other children who live in the district, and then for all other children who live outside the school district. For each school's specific admissions priorities, recommend that you find the school on MySchools.nyc. It'll list out the priority groups, and it'll also tell you which students received offers last year, so that you can know, for example, if offers were only made to children who were zoned for the school, for children who had siblings in the school, and no offers were made to current pre-K students, if they weren't within the zone, it can help you determine what are your likelihood, will they be able to make me an offer next year? And if not, do I want to rank it number one, or do I want to rank it somewhere else? That's why we kind of go over these priority groups, is to help you determine how likely you are to receive an offer. So we'll pause to see if there are any questions.
There is one question, and it is the lottery here dependent on your lottery number or a separate school lottery?
Is the lottery dependent on your lottery number? Is that?
Yes, or a separate school lottery. I think the answer for that, well, you know it. Go
Yeah,
on.
so, and I'll answer live so we can move it. The DOE central office, the enrollment office, are the ones who run the admissions priorities. So even though I'm saying, like, in a school, we'll make you an offer based on this, the individual school doesn't run their own application process. It's all centralized. So yes, the DOE centrally will assign your child a lottery number within the process. Again, that lottery number only comes in if this school, the admissions process can only make offers to some, but not all students within one of the priority groups for any given school. So there's not, you don't have individually assigned lottery numbers for any given school. It's through the central process. Okay, so how to apply? And yes, I'm confirming that the application deadline is January 19th. The application opened yesterday. So you have from December 5th through January 19th, 2024 to apply to school. As I said, all families who apply through, if we can back up, all families who apply during the admissions process, all applications are treated the same. There is no first come, first serve. If you want to go ahead and get this done and apply by December 8th, you can do that. You can then go back and alter your application if something, if you have second thoughts or you learn about a school you hadn't known about before, you can go ahead and do that. As long as your application is in, or nothing will happen until after January 19th. So you can put your application in, make changes if you need to. The main point is to apply by the deadline. There are 3 ways to apply. You can apply online at MySchools.nyc. That's the online directory and website that we went over briefly before. You can call the Office of Enrollment at 718-935-2009, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So apply by phone. And you can apply in person if you want a paper form at a family welcome center. You have the right to apply in your preferred language. So MySchools can be translated into 10 different languages. And the DOE, either at family welcome centers or by phone, has access to interpretation services that cover about 200 additional languages. A little bit more information on Gifted and Talented, which is back. For a while, the application process had kind of been suspended. Gifted and Talented offers accelerated instruction to children who qualify. You can learn about different gifted and talented programs on MySchools.nyc. Schools who offer gifted and talented program will list that within their directory. And as I said, you can filter for programs there. You can also learn more about gifted and talented on this link to the DOE website that says apply to gifted and talented. You apply to the programs through the admissions process. So for each school, there is an application code that you would enter into your application, or on MySchools, you just click to add that school. Schools that have specialized programs like a dual language program or gifted and talented program will have a code just for that program so that you can apply specifically to gifted and talented at a given school. That is the application process that you should follow if you're interested in a gifted and talented program. Eligibility for gifted and talented will be determined after the application process. So for families who apply and express interest in a gifted and talented program, their child's preschool teacher will evaluate the child to see if they're eligible, or if the child is not in a DOE pre-K program, if they're in a private school, private preschool program, or not attending preschool, then a DOE staff person will contact the family to schedule an interview and an observation of the child. If for those children who are found eligible, offers will be made to families based on the admissions priorities, right? So for all the children who are found eligible for gifted and talented and families apply to those individual schools, it'll have to determine if that school can make your child an offer based on the admissions priorities. This is new. This is different than how it's been in some previous years. It was the model that was used last year. There's no longer an exam or kind of that different screening process. This is a newer model that the DOE is using to try to increase diversity and equity in the gifted and talented program. So tips to applying to schools. Through the admissions process, you're able to apply to up to 12 schools. You do not have to apply to 12. You can choose to apply to 1. You can choose to apply to 3 to 4. What we do recommend is that you rank the schools in your order of preference. While we've talked a lot about your admissions priorities, you should really go rank the schools that you want your child to attend, the schools that you prefer, higher on your application. Even if, so if your child's own school, we know that they're most likely to receive an offer there. If that's not the school that you prefer for your child, put it lower in your application, or don't apply to it at all if you do not want your child to attend that school. The application process is the opportunity for you to express your preference in any given school. And to the extent possible, the Department of Education is looking to give you an offer to the school that you ranked highest. And then any other school that you ranked higher, if they didn't make you an offer, you will be put on the wait list for those schools. Some things that you should think about the admissions priorities, because you do want to apply to schools where your child will have a chance. So it's not, if you only apply to schools outside of your district, then your child has a really low likelihood of receiving an offer to any of those schools unless they attend pre-K in those districts, unless they have a sibling who will be attending school outside of their district. You should apply to your zone school or school that is likely to admit your child, so that you, again, you're able to express your preference to a school where you're likely to receive an offer. And think about transportation. We will go over it in a moment, but transportation for kindergarten is not the same as for preschool. In particular, for students with disabilities, many automatically receive transportation in preschool and do not for kindergarten. And we'll go over transportation now, but you want to make sure it's convenient, the school is convenient for you, so that your child can get there every day. Okay. So whether a child gets transportation depends on a few things, and again, for kindergarten. So if transportation is recommended on the child's IEP, then the child gets transportation. It's door to door, so that it's a specialized bus that will come pick up the child from the curb nearest your home, go directly to the school. For children who do not have transportation on their IEP, you have a right to transportation if the school is more than half a mile from your home and within your school district. That transportation doesn't necessarily mean busing. It could mean school to curb, or excuse me, school to bus stop busing. So a designated area near your home where all the children gather, they're picked up from that bus stop, taken to the school. It's the traditional yellow bus that you may see. Or transportation may mean a MetroCard. So MetroCard provided to the family so that an adult can take and pick up the child from school. Children who attend school outside of their district, or children may not qualify for transportation if they attend school outside of their district or closer than half a mile. So again, these are things that you should keep in mind when looking at schools in your area or looking at schools that you're interested in. Will transportation be a barrier if your child receives an offer there? Students in temporary housing and students in foster care will qualify for transportation, even if they aren't within these geographical ranges, because there are additional rights to ensure school stability for those populations. Again, for students in temporary housing and foster care, it may mean being added to a bus route. It may mean getting MetroCards to assist with transportation. If you have questions about transportation for kindergarten, you can email the DOE at early childhood education busing at schools.nyc.gov. It's this email address we've listed here. You can call the transportation office at 718-392-8855, and you can learn more on the DOE's transportation website that we've linked to in this slide as well. We'll pause for questions.
No questions as of now that have gone unanswered, but if you have a question, please enter in the Q&A. We don't have a feature right now to accept people speaking outside of the presentation. Or maybe later. Thank you.
And I know I'm going quickly through the process, so we lost some time, unfortunately, with my technical difficulties. So please, if you have a question, if I'm going too fast, please use the Q&A. We can go back and clarify things. So what happens after you apply to schools? All families that apply to schools by the deadline will receive an offer in the spring. As I said, offers, the DOE the goal is to make you an offer to the school that you ranked highest in your application. Any school that you ranked higher than the school that made you an offer will automatically have you on their wait list. Once you receive the offer, you should accept the offer and register your child. You can accept the offer usually through the means that you applied. So if you applied through MySchools, you'll receive an email letting you know the offers are out. You can accept right at MySchools. You can accept by calling the Office of Enrollment or at a Family Welcome Center. Then there's a separate process to register at the school and to provide some documentation to the school. As I mentioned, so you accept the offer. Accepting the offer does not remove your child from the wait list. So your child will remain on the wait list for any school that you ranked higher and will stay on that wait list usually through the beginning of the school year in September. So you may still hear back from programs over the summer letting you know that a seat has become available. If you're interested, then you accept that waitlist offer and then register your child for that school. The waitlist usually closes sometime in end of September or early October. So if you receive an offer at that point, we understand that many families may not want to take their child out of the seat or out of the school where they've already started. That will be completely your choice. If the school that made you an offer would create some type of hardship for you and your family. So for example, if the school that made you an offer would require you to have children in different schools and transportation wouldn't be feasible because you have to be at a bus stop at one time and taking your child at another, if it creates challenges with childcare, or if the child is not, or if the school is not accessible to your child, then you can request a transfer. There are medical and reasonable accommodation transfers. You can request this type of assistance from a family welcome center. The transfer doesn't mean that, if you have two children attending different schools, it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be able to get your child admitted to a school that wasn't able to make you an offer. But it can mean that your children, they may be able to find a school that's closer to that sibling school to try to minimize the hardship or the challenge. Again, you can make this request at a family welcome center to try to ease whatever it is, the hardship or the safety concern. So in addition to accepting the offer, you'll need to register your child for kindergarten at the new school. And when you register, these are some of the documents that you need to bring with you. The first is a proof of your child's age. This can be a birth certificate, a passport, a record of baptism, just confirmation of your child's age specifically. You need 2 proofs of address. This can include a lease, a deed, a mortgage statement, a utility bill, rent receipt, government ID. You can't use things like a magazine subscription. It needs to be a more formalized document, but utility bills, so water bill, electric bill, those can count. If you have a New York City ID, that can also be, you can also use that as it's a government ID with your address. You do not need to provide proof of citizenship or a social security number. There should be no questions about your immigration status. And just to note that students in temporary housing, you have the right to immediate enrollment. So even if you do not have all of this documentation, the school, you're allowed to start school and the family is given time to try to gather these documents. So another trivia question to make sure you're still with us. When you accept a kindergarten offer and register your child at the school, you are A, taking your child off the wait list for other schools, B, reserving a seat for your child at that school, C, you're no longer eligible to apply to charter schools, or D, all of the above. Okay, can't tell if we've stumped some of you or it's just taking a little bit longer. We'll give 5 more seconds. So the majority of you have completed the poll and have answered correctly. When you accept an offer and register your child for school, you are just reserving a seat for your child at that school. This process generally happens in the spring. You are accepting the offer. Your child remains on the wait list for schools that you ranked higher in your application. So you can continue to hear back from those schools even once you've accepted the seat and registered your child. It does not prevent you from applying to charter schools. That's a completely different application process, and they have their own admissions priorities. It's separate from the process for applying to any type of private schools or even specialized programs like Nest, Horizon. The processes don't affect each other. So the correct answer is that you're reserving a seat for your child for September. And speaking of charter schools, as I said, we just have some very brief information on the charter school process because it is a completely different process. We can't cover it all here today, but want to make you aware of the basics and where you can get more information. So you can find a list of schools and learn, so charter schools, I should just say, are also public schools. They are free public schools in New York City. The difference is that they're not run by the Department of Education. They are run by their own nonprofit board. So they are still public schools. You are still eligible to apply, and all families can apply, including families of children with disabilities. You can find a list of schools and more information about charter schools at nyccharterschools.org. You can also look up individual schools. There are some larger popular schools like Success Academy, for example, that has their own website where you can get more information. You can apply to schools directly, or you can apply online with the nyccharterschools.org apply. Most charter schools application deadline is on April 1st. So it is a different timeline than the DOE application process. You may even get your DOE offer before the deadline for charter school has passed. That said, applications are also rolling basis. You can apply simultaneously if you want. The process for one does not affect the other. So if you get an offer to a charter school, that doesn't affect your chances of getting an offer to any of the DOE schools that you applied to, and vice versa. As I mentioned, charter schools, all families can apply to charter schools. Charter schools must serve students with disabilities. They must serve immigrant families, students learning a language other than English. We raise students with disabilities in particular because it has come up in our work and in our presentations. So just want to flag that not only must charter schools admit students with disabilities, they must provide the services on a child's IEP or their individualized education program. But do want to flag that not all charter schools, particularly for students who may need more support and who may need a special class, like a 12 to 1-to-1, special class where all the students are students with disabilities and the teacher is a special education teacher. Many charter schools do not offer that type of placement. If the charter school is still your preference, you take your IEP and you can discuss accommodations, can discuss how they're going to implement the IEP, or you can discuss, some type of alternative supports. Does it mean they have a special education teacher that can do one-on-one services with your child, and other things, right? Now, so that is one option, but you also, in addition to applying to charter schools, and you have the right to apply, the DOE is also required to have a kindergarten seat for every child that needs one. So if you go through the charter school process, you don't get an offer, or you get an offer that you want to turn down, you still have the right to a seat at a DOE non-specialized school. And so for students with disabilities, as I started the presentation by saying that you will go through two processes, or these families go through two processes. One is the applying to kindergarten process that we've been covering. The second process is developing the kindergarten IEP. These two processes come together with the school location letter. The school location letter is a letter that's sent to families in June generally, and it lists all the programs and services that were recommended on the student's IEP, and it also says which school will be providing those services. So if a child's IEP recommends a non-specialized school, so general education class with supports and services, an integrated co-teaching class with speech therapy or occupational therapy, or a 12 to 1-to-1 special class in a non-specialized school, the school listed on this green school location letter should be the same school that made you an offer through the kindergarten application process. We recommend that you call that school listed on this letter to make sure that they will actually have all of the services recommended on your child's IEP. And here too, it's, we especially want to highlight this for families of children whose IEP recommends a special class, like a 12 to 1-to-1 in a non-specialized school. Just like not every charter school has it, unfortunately, not every DOE non-specialized school has it. So really recommend that you call and check, do you have this school? Will you be opening it in September? So that you can make sure that the school will be able to implement your child's IEP and provide all the services your child needs in September. If they say they can't, I have some resources available for you in a moment. Okay. Pause to see if there are questions.
There is one that I wanted to share, and it is, why do families of children with disabilities have to go through the application process?
So you don't have to, but we highly encourage you. So no family has to go through the application process, but we highly encourage all families to do it because it is your one opportunity to express your preference in schools, in DOE non-specialized schools. Also, many students with disabilities attend non-specialized schools. Many attend their zone schools for kindergarten. As I said, every DOE non-specialized school should be able to offer therapies like speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, to have an integrated co-teaching classroom, and to have a special class, a 12 to 1-to-1 special class. The process of developing your child's IEP happens around the same time that you're applying to kindergarten. So right now, families of children with disabilities are, they received a welcome packet. They're having evaluations potentially done. Their preschool programs are writing progress reports for how their child is making progress this year. The DOE will hold IEP meetings for students with disabilities between February and May. That means that the kindergarten application process is going to end before that family has their kindergarten IEP. Because most kindergarten IEPs recommend non-specialized placements for students, the family need to apply before their IEP meeting in order to express their preference in which school can provide those services for their child. It's complicated. I know that for many families, they would much rather have their IEP first and then be able to apply to schools. But the DOE says all our non-specialized schools have the same capacity for serving all students with disabilities. They all work with students with disabilities and they all offer the same resources. So that's how the DOE says they're able to do these on kind of such similar timelines. If you know for sure that your child will need a specialized placement, if your child has significant needs, it's currently attending, for example, a 6-to-1-to-2 special class, and you're certain that your child, maybe your child is nonverbal, they have significant cognitive delays. If you are certain that your child cannot attend a non-specialized school, you don't have to apply. You can apply to just your own school and no other schools. You don't have to go through that process, but we do encourage families to go through it, because for most children, they will receive, their IEP will recommend a non-specialized placement, and this is how you apply to those placements. I hope that answered the question and wasn't too wonky. I will recommend for families of children with disabilities that you attend our webinar on kindergarten IEP, because there we go over all the programs and services available for children with disabilities, including specialized programs, and really dive deeper in how these processes go together. So we're wrapping up, and so going to end with a lot of resources and more kind of general rights. You have the right to language access and so translation and interpretation services. The DOE generally has been providing translation into these 10 languages: Arabic, Bengali, Chinese, French, Haitian, Creole, Korean, Russian, Spanish, Urdu, and English. So most of the materials on the DOE website will be in these top 10 languages. That said, these aren't the only languages that the DOE should be providing translation and interpretation for. They should, if you need it, the DOE should be providing translation and interpretation in your language, even if it's not one of these 10. Translation really refers to written materials. So letters, forms, meeting notices for families or children with disabilities. It includes your IEP, your child's IEP. Also through the kindergarten application process, you have the right to apply in your language. So either that is a translated form that you can use, or interpretation when you're calling the DOE for assistance, or scheduling an appointment at a family welcome center to apply. Interpretation refers to spoken word. So having someone interpret what you say during a parent-teacher conferences, parent association meetings, suspension hearings, IEP meetings for special education services. If translation and interpretation is not being provided, you can call the DOE complaint number at 718-935-2013, or email the DOE at hello@schools.nyc.gov to make a complaint. But first, try to, especially if you're using a family welcome center or calling the Office of Enrollment, make sure that you're requesting services in your language. Some additional resources for applying to schools or the application process. AFC has a kindergarten admissions guide where we go over admissions priorities. We go over the rights of students in temporary housing, students with disabilities, students from immigrant families, dual language programs. It's a pretty comprehensive guide where you can dive deep and get much more information. The Department of Education also has resources. We've gone over MySchools.nyc. That's the primary online directory, and also a website you can use to apply to schools. Schoolsearch.schools.nyc, where you can find your zone school and also other schools within your area. The DOE has a kindergarten website, schools.nyc.gov/kindergarten. That's where you can find a copy of the public school admissions guide that we went over, that gives you more information on how to create a MySchools account, the general process for applying, the checklists, and other kind of resources. If you need additional support to help you with the application, you can contact the DOE Family Welcome Center. They're located throughout the city. This is a link to where you can find your local Family Welcome Center. The DOE Office of Student Enrollment, you can email them or call them. Again, you can also apply to kindergarten by contacting a Family Welcome Center or the Office of Student Enrollment. And of course, there's Advocates for Children. We are here to help and answer your questions. So you can call our helpline for any assistance. For children with IEPs, children with disabilities, we have also resources specifically on the transition. We have need to update the name. We have a Turning 5 guide, also known as a kindergarten transition guide, that will go over the IEP process. We have, the DOE also has resources. They have a website on the transition from preschool to kindergarten for students with disabilities. On that website, you can get a copy of their guide, the kindergarten orientation guide, available in 10 languages. You can get more information on District 75. These are the specialized DOE schools. So I say District 75, it's not an area, it just designates that these are schools specifically for special education, and they're located everywhere in the city. And information on specialized programs that includes NEST, Horizon, iRead, ACES. You can learn more about all of these in our kindergarten IEP or Understanding the Kindergarten IEP webinars. Some additional special education resources. The DOE is doing trainings and information sessions called kindergarten orientation meetings. You can sign up for one of the live sessions. There will be upcoming sessions on December 7th, January 23rd, January 25th, or you can watch one of the pre-recorded sessions. These are hyperlinks to help you access those. And finally, you can call us with questions. I know I went over a lot of material. Like I said, we will be sending you a copy of these slides. We will be sending you the link to the recording of this webinar. But if that's not enough, if that's not helpful, you can call us with any questions. Before we go, we're going to launch one final poll to try to get your feedback on this webinar. Let us know what you enjoyed, what could use improvement. And while you complete that poll, Liliana and I will remain on here in case there are any additional questions that we didn't get to. And apologies, know that some people raise their hand. We don't have the ability to call on you if you have a raised hand. So if you can, please enter your question into the Q&A. And as I said, we'll stay here for a few more moments to answer any questions.